As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to the whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. Students, as the child reached near the village where the fair was held, the child could see many other footpaths full of large crowd. Throng means large crowd meeting at a place, means conversing means meeting to the whirlpool. Whirlpool means a mixture. They were meeting at a place, and he felt at once repelled and fascinated. These two are the opposite feeling. Fascinated means attracted, and repelled means unattracted. He was a little confused where he was entering. A sweetmeat seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and crowd pressed round his counter. At the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets, decorated with leaves of silver and gold, the child stared open eyed and his mouth watered for the burfi that was his favorite sweet. I want that burfi, he slowly murmured, but he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded because his parent would say he was greedy. So, without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Now, he came near a sweet meat seller where he was screaming gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance. A crowd pressed around his counter. Pressed around his counter means they were growing around his counter. A huge crowd was growing around his counter to purchase the sweets, and they were so beautiful sweets. They were decorated with silver and gold work. The child stared open eyed. His mouth was filled with water. As he saw Barfi was his favorite sweet, he slowly murmured, I want that Barfi. But he knew that his parent will deny again. So he knew that his plea means his request would not be heeded. Heeded means dhyan diya jana. His plea would not be heeded, so that before hearing the answer, he moved on. A flower seller hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went toward the basket where the flower lay heaped and half murmured, I want that garland, but he well knew his parent would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So, without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Now, he reached near a flower seller where he was screaming, a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. As the child saw the garland of gulmohar, he attracted by the uh, heap of the gulmohar garland. He wanted to purchase one garland of gulmohar, but he knew his parent will deny. So, without waiting for answer, he moved on. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green, and purple balloons flying from it. The child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken colors, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. So he walked on further. Now, he saw a balloon man who was holding a pole that has yellow, red, green, and purple balloons. The child was simply attracted by the rainbow glory of the colorful balloons. He was filled with desire. Overwhelming means much desire. He has he was filled with the great desire to possess them all. Means he want to purchase all of them, but he well knew his parent would never buy for him. He he knew the answer of his parents. They will say he was too old to play with such toys. So, without waiting for answer, he walked on further. A snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in basket, its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its invisible ear like the gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. Now he came near a snake charmer. He was playing flute before a snake which coiled himself in a basket. As you know, snake couldn't hear, he only feels the vibration from the earth. So when uh, the vibration of the sound the snake felt, he raised its head. It was looks like a neck of a swan. The music was like the rippling of invisible waterfall. Rippling means the sound of falling water from a waterfall. This child went toward the snake charmer, but knowing his parent had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. He knew his parent will again deny to listen this unpleasant music, so he proceed further, means he left the place and went ahead. There was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in a whirling motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently and then he made a bold request. I want to go on the roundabout, please, father, mother. Now, next, he saw a roundabout in full swing, means goal wala jhula. He saw a swing. Men and women and children, they were happy while they were moving on this roundabout. They were shrieked, they were shouting, they were happy on this roundabout. When the child saw them, he intently, means carefully, he carefully made a bold request to his parents. I want to go on the roundabout. Please, father, please, mother. Now he requested to his parents. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. Ahead of him, he turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. Now, when he requested his parents, he didn't hear any reply. He looked behind. There was no sign of his parents. He saw either side. He saw in his right side, he saw in his left side, but they were not there. A full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear. Mother, father, tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fires. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. Panic stricken, he ran to one side first, then to other, hither and thither in all direction, knowing nowhere to go. Mother, father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied and his clothes became muddy. Now a full deep cry rose within his dry throat. He shouted loudly, Mother, father. Now he started crying. His with a jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood. Now he ran here and there in search of his parents. He really sad. Now he shouted in a loud voice, Mother, father. Now tears rolled down from his eyes. They were hot and fires. Now his happy face convulsed, changed into a fearful face. Panic stricken, he ran to one side first, then other side. He tried to find out his parents, first of all, one side, then the other side, but he found no one, nowhere. He didn't know where to go. Mother, father, he wailed. He wailed means he cried. His yellow turban untied, and now his clothes became dirty. Having run to and fro in a rage of running for a while, he stood defeated, his cries suppressed into sobs. At little distances on the green grass he could see through his filmy eyes men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his parents and mother among these people who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. While running to and fro in a rage, while searching his parents, he stopped defeated, his cries suppressed into sob. Now he started sobbing. At a little distance on the green grass, he could see some people. They were sitting and they were talking to each other. He thought his parent would be there, but when he went near them, he found no sign of his parents. Again, they were the people who were sitting on the grass, they were laughing just for the sake of laughing and talking. He ran quickly again, this time to a shrine to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space here was congested with men, but he ran through people's legs, his little sob lingering mother, father near the entrance to the people. However, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. The poor child struggled to thrust away between their feet, but knocked knocked to and fro by their brutal movement, he might have been trampled underfoot, had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice, Mother, Father! A man in the surging crowd heard his cry and, stooping with great difficulty, lifting him up in his arms. Now he ran quickly again. This time he went to a shrine, means he went to a temple where a huge crowd was going to see the god and offering the prayer. Every little inches of space here was congested. The crowd was so huge, but the child managed to go within their feet. He was crying, Mother, Father, people pushing each other, and the people were looking murderous. They have hefty shoulders. They were so, they were huge. The poor child struggled to thrust a way between their feet. He was just going to tremble under their foot, but suddenly a man who bent down and saved the child. He lifted him up in his arms.